So good evening everyone and welcome to our Lovely People webinar. And this week I am absolutely delighted and thrilled to be speaking to my lovely niece, Bec. So she is a lovely, lovely person and I do actually know Bec quite well. I can remember her being born.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but we're not going to go into that tonight. But so there's a lot of really, really exciting things going on with us. And Bec, I would really, really, really like to hear from you. Anything about your story? Anything, share anything about how you came across the principles. I would just love to hear it all from your perspective.
Oh gosh, where to start? There's about 3 different versions of my story and I never know quite which one to tell. Just see what comes out, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So where do we start? Lucy and Deb and I were all brought up in a religious family. Oh, I've just had a message saying my internet connection's unstable. Excellent start.
Cool. That's great.
So we were all brought up in quite a religious family. Went to Sunday school, went to church every week, that sort of thing. And I stayed in the church and was very, very involved in the church through most of my 20s. And I worked with somebody in the church and that sort of thing. And my whole life was in the church, all my friends, obviously my work, my social life, everything. But when was it? About 4 years ago, I think, wasn't it, when I first started talking to you, Deb? Somewhere around about that time, something wasn't sitting right with me, and I was working for somebody who was emotionally manipulative, but I sort of knew it was going on in the way that you know those things are going on, but you don't admit it to yourself. And that had been sort of going on for about a year or so, and I was starting to get very, 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 very uncomfortable. And I think Lucy was very, very worried about me, and there was a few other things going on in the background. I think she was talking to you a lot, Deb, at the time, saying, "What do we do? We need to help Bec." And as you always do,
you need to sort Bec out.
And as you always do, you pointed Lucy back to her own innate health and said, "Leave Bec, she'll come to us if she wants to." And I was working for this lady, and there was a couple of things that happened at the time, one of which was that I was looking to leave the church, which is quite a big thing in the small community I was a part of. It wasn't, you didn't just leave the church, you kind of had to hand your notice in and speak to people and kind of confirm you were leaving and that sort of thing. So it was all a very big deal at the time, and the woman I was working for wasn't happy about it all. And she and I had about a 4-hour conversation where she told me all sorts of things about not being able to leave the church and not being able to stop working for her and all that kind of thing. And then I think she was then flying off somewhere on holiday or something. And as soon as she left the house, I rang Lucy, and I think I was in a bit of a mess, was I, Lou? And I kind of went, "I think I need to speak to Deb. I don't know what to do with myself." So I sort of, that was when I first spoke to you, Deb, and kind of told you a bit about what was going on. And you very kindly said, "Come and stay with me if you like." Let me tell you about something I know called the principles. And that was the start of something very beautiful. So I turned up at your house in a little bit of an emotional mess. Would that be correct? I was a bit all over the place. And we spent a week, I just kind of followed you around, I think, like a bit of a lost puppy. And you just spoke about something I didn't really understand, but there were some really nice things that you said. And slowly but surely something started to fall into place for me. And it was a couple of months after that, I think, that you did a 90-day email course that absolutely changed my life. I think that was the bit that you kind of watched me blossom, didn't you? And there was all sorts of stuff in that really, really hit home for me. One of the biggest things, and certainly the thing that I think got me into the position I was with the lady that I worked for, was around people pleasing. And you did a whole section on that in this 90-day course about how there's a place of balance somewhere in the middle, and if you're not in that place, you're either people pleasing or people squashing, and I was definitely on the people pleasing end of that scale, and did a lot of, I want people to love me, and the best way to get them to love me is to do what they want. Only that's extremely difficult. And living that kind of life, trying to do what somebody else wants and pleasing somebody else, is very, very hard work, as I found out. And yeah, all through that 90-day course, there was a lot of stuff about pointing us back to kind of learning to love ourselves and finding our place of balance, and doing what was right for us. And I think that was probably the biggest thing out of that course for me. There was all sorts of stuff in that we did. Lucy was on it as well, and a few other people. And there was quite a few really fun things that we did in the midst of all of that. And I think part of the kind of learning to love ourselves was around random acts of kindness. And Lucy and I, we weren't living together at that point in time, no, but we were living around the corner from each other. And we just, like, as soon as Deb talked in this course about doing random act of kindness, we just went through the roof with it, didn't we, Lou? And we did a lot of all sorts of different things. But I think that our favourite one and the most fun one was when we went to Asda in Bideford and bought some cakes and just stood outside of Asda giving them away to people. And that was extremely entertaining and surprisingly challenging, actually, like putting yourself outside your comfort zone, offering random strangers cakes and seeing what they say. But I think that those 90 days and some of the challenges and stuff we did in that, it massively changed something for me. And after coming out of the working with that lady that was sort of emotionally manipulative, I think it was very, very good to have 90 consecutive days of, you are okay, you are whole, you are love. Because up until then, didn't know that I was, and I didn't think that I was, and I certainly didn't feel that I was. So that's probably my story in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually to hear it, because obviously, you know, I know it from my side. I was there, I'm watching you, I'm watching the changes in you and watching what was going on for you. So it's really interesting to hear you kind of say it from your side and what was going on for you. And we did have a lot of fun with that. Yeah, so that was kind of your introduction. That's how you came across the principles.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, you described the 90-day course you did, and that thing about people pleasing and people squashing. What else do you think, since you've come across the principles, what else has changed for you? Or maybe, you know, update us a little bit with what things that are going on for you now that you're learning.
Yeah. So I guess, like, there's probably a number of things that I think, for me, the principles have shown me. One, without doubt, the biggest and thing that's changed for me the most is the loving myself. And what I think is really interesting about that is, if you'd have asked me before, I would have probably said, yeah, I love myself. But I think it came from a very different place and a very different understanding of what that meant. There was more of an ego kind of love, like, oh, I'm amazing, and people have said I'm pretty, or, you know, those kinds of egotistical type things that we all have, which are fun. But actually, that's not what I'm talking about when I say now about loving myself. It's much more of a understanding who I am, the absolute essence of what I am, the creative essence of the entire universe, in case any of you on the webinar don't know what you are. And I think kind of knowing that almost gives you permission to go and play full out. Like, one of the things we did, I can't remember if it was during the 90 days or after that, but we went and did a skydive, me and Lucy, and that was massive. Like, that was just possibly one of the most amazing things I've ever done. And one of the underlying things for me with that was knowing that whatever happened, literally, even if my parachute didn't come out and I crashed to the floor and splattered, I was still the creative essence of the entire universe. And that, you know, parachute or no parachute, that doesn't change that fact. And I think that's been that's the biggest thing for me from the principles, is knowing that excuse me, and knowing that I am that. And I think I summarize that as love. So when I say loving myself, it's understanding and knowing what I am and who I am, and that doesn't change parachute or no parachute or in fact skydive or no skydive. I'm still the creative essence of the universe if I'd have never done a skydive, or if I go on to do 100 more. And I think that's definitely the main thing from the principles that's changed for me. But I think the other thing that has been huge for me is that, having been brought up with a kind of religious background, when I first left the church, it was a really scary place to be in, because it had been my whole life, and it looked for a while like stopping sort of attending church services and that sort of thing kind of meant I had to give up some of my beliefs, and that looked a bit scary, especially when it's been your whole life. It can kind of look like you're jumping out of a plane without a parachute, and it definitely felt like that when I did it. But actually the principles, I think, has given me a nicer place to put my beliefs and my faith, if that makes sense. So I'll maybe explain that a bit more. I think for me, religion was, somebody else said, this is what's true, and these are the rules you have to apply to your life to be okay. And the principle says, this is what's true, and do what you want with that. And that's been really, really freeing for me. Because I lived with so many rules for such a long time, and there were somebody else's rules, and I didn't question them. And when I did, I didn't really have an answer. So then I thought, well, I better not question them because there's no answers here. When I came to the principles, and Deb, you sort of talked a lot about God, because that's a word we've obviously grown up with and makes sense to us. It felt a much more comfortable understanding of what God is. Like, as I sort of talked about earlier, the creative essence of the universe. It is what we are. It's the everything. It's the allness. It's the oneness. And there's so many words for it. And I think God is actually my favourite word, because that's just one I'm very comfortable with. But it's that knowing that no matter what happens, we are okay, and that everything that we possibly need is built into this system. And that was never taught to me, and that was never explained to me when I went to church. That wasn't part of the religion. It was, this is God in this little pocket here, and these are all the rules you have to kind of talk to God or meet with God, or, you know, whatever it might be that you kind of think. And I think that has been probably my second favorite thing about the principles, is that it's given me a very, very different but way more beautiful relationship with God than I ever had attending church 3 times a week. And I think that's just, that's made all the difference in my life.
That was lovely. I've really enjoyed listening to that. That's really, we talk a lot about the principles, but we don't, this is a different conversation. I mean, obviously I talk to you a lot of the time. We speak very, very regularly, and yet this is a really, really different conversation to the ones that we usually have. It's really nice hearing your perspectives on these things. So thank you. There might be there's a couple of people on this call that I'm not sure who they are, and definitely I know there's people that listen to the recordings after this. So I wonder if you would mind sharing with us what you see that the principles are. You know, if there's somebody who's like, right, you've talked about principles, you keep mentioning principles, what are you talking about? What are they? What are these principles?
It's so annoying when people do that. You do that to me. No, in fairness, I think when you first talked about the principles to me, you did used to use the words quite a lot. And I don't think we do that as much anymore, because we're so used to the conversation. But it's a fair question, because yes, when you are new to them, what the hell are these principles? So I guess probably the sweetest little summary I can do is the principles, the 3 principles as they're referred to most commonly, is their mind, thought and consciousness. So mind for me is the bit that I just talked about, the God part, the kind of the power behind what's going on, if you don't like the word God. So it's the fact that you can plant a seed and a flower will grow, that you don't have to get up in the morning and think about moving your blood cells around your body, that you cut your hair and it grows again, which is why we're going to the hairdressers tomorrow, Lou. All that kind of stuff, the power behind life, that, you know, if you're not religious and you find God uncomfortable, then, you know, I get that that's not easy for everyone. But there is definitely something else going on here that we're not in control of. And I think that for me is what mind is pointed to. It's that something else that's happening. thought for me is about the fact that we have thinking. So you'll experience thoughts like, shit, I'm on a webinar tonight, what am I doing? And oh my gosh, this is actually really good fun. And the fact that you can flip between those two thoughts really quite quickly, I've noticed. That's kind of thought for me, is that experience. And often we don't even know what our thoughts are. Like, we can have, I guess, hundreds of thousands of them in a day, and we don't always consciously know what they are. But one of your phrases, Deb, that I think it took me months to get what you meant by this, and then suddenly I had a light bulb moment. We live in the feeling of our thinking. So even if we don't know what our thoughts are, we might be feeling something, and we won't necessarily connect what the thought is behind that, but that is coming through the power of thought, that feeling. That you might, for me, that was the knot in the stomach before this started. That's me living in the feeling of my thinking. And then consciousness is the bit that I kind of think brings it all to life. So you have thoughts and you have feelings, and then you experience that, and that's consciousness. And I think I'll steal the best metaphor I've ever heard for this, which is the projector. So the old style cinema, we used to go and watch a film, there'd be a projector in a projection box at the back of the room, and mind is kind of like the plug where you plug that in. You couldn't have your cinema without the electricity. Thought is the kind of cinema reel, so you wouldn't get your film up on the screen if you didn't have the reel running through, and consciousness is the light that projects it out onto the screen. And then I think the best kind of part for me on that is that all of that comes together and projects onto the screen, and at the end of the film that all shuts down and the screen is still exactly as it was at the beginning. None of what's happened in that film has kind of affected that screen at all. It's still that pure white screen. And I think that's what I talk about when I talk about the essence of who we are. We are that white screen that whatever happens to it and whatever goes on with it, that actually can't be impacted. That all just plays out on the screen, and then the screen returns to exactly what it was. So that's, I guess, my summary of what the principles are.
Yeah, no, that was brilliant. That was a lovely explanation. Thank you. A very good one. Yes, we'll have to have that, cut that little bit and have it on our website.
No, I don't think I've agreed to that.
No, when you've been on a webinar, it's public. Everything you say on the webinar is for public consumption. So
I never signed any consent form for that.
Well, hi Erica, it's okay, it's good to see you, I'm glad you're here. So
Lucy, is that your iPhone that's just randomly joined us, or is that, it might be Lucy G?
Yeah, it might be the other Lucy.
Cool.
There it is. Hi Lucy, it's nice to see you, or not see you. So okay, that's been lovely, thank you. Do you want to share a little bit now about what's going on in your life now, kind of the impact that this understanding,
Well, we have empty cupboards in the kitchen. We have no furniture in the house, and that's all because once upon a time you taught me about these principles. And for those of you who don't know, I'll fill in the blanks from there to now. So last year, around about summertime, we were coming down to spend a week with Deb, me and Lou and our friends Kerry and Frederick. And on the day we were due to travel down, we had some quite sad news about a friend, a close friend of Lucy's, a friend of ours called Janine, that she sadly passed away. And as you might expect, it was a bit of a shock. We got to Deb's house and we were all quite upset. And when we sort of went about our week, and it was one of those bittersweet weeks, because we had a lot of sadness about Janine, but also a lot of fun being together in the kind of midst of that. It was very perfect timing in a lot of ways. And I think we spent that whole week kind of reflecting on life and what it can do to us at times, and how it appears as though that sort of stuff has an effect on us. And Lucy and I think, came away from that week very much in the space of, what are we doing with our lives? I was in a civil service job, which was a good job. I had some great colleagues, and it was a relatively easy, fun job most of the time. Good pay, good benefits, all that kind of thing. Lucy had her own cleaning business, But if you actually sat us down and asked us whether we were doing something we were passionate about, whether we were making a difference in our lives, in other people's lives, I think the honest answer would have been no. And I think we came back from that week in August kind of questioning whether we wanted to do something different with our lives. And the obvious answer was yes, we want to move to Devon and talk about the 3 principles all of the time, and drink tea and eat cake, of course. So not too long after that, we kind of all got together and decided that that's in fact what we were going to do. So since sort of summer last year, we have slowly been working things out to make it so that we can move to Devon in a week and a bit's time. We've been doing a lot of stuff around the business. Jules is heavily involved with us, and the 4 of us together make quite a team. And we've just been doing lots and lots of stuff since then, just to kind of build on the business that Deb kind of had started, including these webinars. This is all part of the fun that we have. And it must be, a week ago, I finished my job. So I handed in my notice at the end of March and told everybody in the office, I'm moving to Devon to go and do, I don't really know what, whatever turns up on our doorstep. And Lucy wrapped up her cleaning business towards the end of February, I think. And just slowly but surely over the last few months, we've been wrapping things up, and as of today, clearing out our kitchen cupboards with the intention of moving down there and working all together, the 4 of us, to do what we can to share the principles as far and wide as we can around North Devon. And it has been quite a journey. Like, oh my gosh,
about that. I was going to ask you what your mind has been doing with all.
So many things. Like, I know we've all had conversations about this, but one of the things I think I've gone to a little bit is, what am I actually bringing to this business? And I know me and Lou and Jules have all had this conversation and kind of gone, we've all had these moments of, well, you're all brilliant, but what about me? I don't do anything. And I don't do a lot of the speaking in the groups and stuff. I'm a bit like, well, I can sit in the office, but I'm not really doing anything for the business. And then equally, I've had thoughts of, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing that I could ever possibly do. Go and start up a business with my family, talk to people about something I'm incredibly passionate about, and just have a whale of a time doing it. And all the different thoughts in between, obviously. And then when I handed my notice in at the end of March, and it's really funny because I don't know if anyone else has thoughts like this. Probably not, because nobody else is as strange as me, right? But have you ever been to a funeral and kind of sat there thinking, why do people wait till someone dies to say all these nice things about each other? Why don't we do that anyway? And that was a little bit how it felt when I handed my notice in. Suddenly everybody loved me. I did an amazing job. They were all going to miss me. Well, why haven't you been telling me that for the last 4 years? I think that's quite a funny thing that we humans do. But I spent the last few weeks in my job very much in a space of, I'm really going to miss these people I work with. I've had an amazing 4 years as a civil servant. I got that job when I left, to kind of pick up my earlier story. When I stopped working for that lady I was talking about, I went straight into this job in a temporary position, and then worked up to a permanent position, and then a manager position. And it has just, the 4 years that I've worked there have just been incredible. I've had so much fun and done so many challenging and interesting things, and made some incredible friendships with people. And I just spent the last few weeks working there thinking, why am I leaving this? It's been so good. What am I doing? It was quite an emotional last couple of weeks. And it had quite a number of people that spoke to me and sort of say amazing, quite jealous that I'm giving everything up and moving to Devon. I invited most of the people I work with to move to Devon with me. So I hope the spare room's fairly big, Deb, in our new house, because we've got a lot of people moving to Devon. But yeah, it's been super interesting to watch the kind of, from the day that we decided this was happening, so it was probably 6 or 7 months ago, we were kind of right, this is it, this is what we're doing. The stuff that has happened, the connections we've made, the things that have unfolded, and the emotions and thoughts that have gone on in that time has just been Like, you can't make this stuff up. You couldn't, you know, it's more exciting than most movies, I would suggest. And it's been incredible. And last Friday when I left work, I cried in the car all the way home. And I got home, and much to my relief, Andrew was here and gave me a very big hug, and I was sobbing on his shoulder, bless him, told me that I had an amazing life ahead of me. So yeah, that's kind of what's been going on the last few months, but feel free to ask more questions about that.
So what difference do you think it's made? I mean, it's quite a big thing to give up a very good, very well paid, solid, if any jobs in this, you know, are solid, that's a pretty solid job you had there.
Yeah.
It's quite a big thing to give all that up, to move to something quite uncertain, really. You know, we kind of...
That's not what you said, Deb. That's not what you promised us.
We're stepping right into the unknown here. So what difference do you think it's made for you, understanding what you understand? How do you think that's helped you over? Because, you know, I know for me, and I know for Lucy as well, because the conversation, this has been quite a roller coaster, this whole, because I've moved house. So, you know, we're going to share a house when you move down here. So I've moved house to get a house so that we can all be here living. So it's a massive change for all of us. And I know there's been times when my head has done things that I wasn't expecting it to do.
Yeah, same for sure. I know. Yeah, Lucy and I, obviously, because we live together, we've both been in and out of lots of all sorts of different thoughts and emotions over the last few months. I think the thing that has made the difference for me is the grounding in knowing that no matter what my thoughts are doing, thoughts are not truth. So the thoughts might be saying, oh shit, you're not going to have any money, you might not be fed next week, you might not have a house in 6 months' time, and that kind of thing. But those thoughts aren't truth. And equally, the lovely story that Andrew seems to think is going to be a reality is we're going to make millions, and he's quite reliant on that, by the way, so no pressure. It is even that thought isn't truth. And even if we do make millions or we don't have food next week, that isn't even because we had those thoughts. They're not connected. And we're very good at doing that. We have a thought, and then if something happens that looks very similar to that thought, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen, I thought that was going to happen, I said that was going to happen, and they're just not connected. The thoughts that we have are just kind of the energy of the creative universe passing through us, and they are not reality, and they are not the absolute. And I think that makes a big difference for me when we do stuff like this. And it was the same with the skydive. There's a beautiful phrase, I think it's Jill Whalen I stole this from, leap and a net shall appear. And it's so true. Obviously in the skydiving world, leap and a parachute shall appear. And it did. And hopefully in this case, metaphorically, our net will appear as we are leaping. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is knowing that whatever my thoughts do, I am taken care of. And I think, again, that's the bit that I don't think came across for me when I was in the church. That doesn't feel to me like that was what was taught. It felt like if you do the right things, you'll kind of be okay. And now it looks like if you just get on and live your life, or don't, whatever you do, you are always okay, because that is built into the system. That is a given. Like, that is our starting point. It's not do this and then, it's you are okay, so do whatever. And if that's moving to Devon with no idea where your income's coming from, great, you'll still be okay. And I think that's huge. And yeah, you know, when the thoughts come that kind of tell me, and they do, okay, once you've run out of money from what you got paid last week, you're in big trouble here, Bec, because, you know, where's the next pay packet coming from? How is Asda going to deliver your food when you've got no money? That kind of thing. And when that happens, there is still a teeny tiny voice somewhere going, you kind of know what's happening here. It's thoughts. They're just trying to trip you up. And, you know, yeah, we get caught in them. And yeah, I believe them. at times I definitely enter right into those lovely stories. But that little voice is constantly there, kind of saying, it's all going to be okay. If Asda's going to deliver your food, then they will. And if you're meant to have food from Asda, you will. And I think that for me is where it's at, is the grounding, the knowing that part, the knowing that it's all taken care of. And I don't even mean that in a, oh, I can just sit back and do nothing kind of way, because eventually money would run out. We do live in a physical world that we've kind of created, but it's the knowing that even if money ran out, that's still okay too. And even if there isn't food on my plate next week, somewhere, that's okay too. I don't know where, because I do love food, but it has to be, because I know that's built into the system. And I guess for me, that's what's made all of this happen, that's kind of, that's built in. And I think the kind of follow-up to that is the bit that we talk about, the staying in the conversation. When I have moments where I don't know that, you do, or Lucy does, or Julie does, and one of you just, politely reminds me, often in a Jamaican accent or something similar. But I think the staying in the conversation part is the bit that makes a massive difference for us as well, is that when one of us is wobbling, the rest are there, rock steady, and reminding each other that this is all going to be okay, whatever happens, millionaires or not. And I think that's where doing this, taking this leap of faith, has been okay, because I know that I'm okay, and when I forget, which I do, you guys are there reminding me, because we're in this conversation together.
Thank you. Shall we see if anyone has got a question? Shall we see?
Sure.
You've been talking for about half an hour, so you're doing good. It's all going good.
Have you stroked my nose yet, Jules?
She is right now, I think. So has anyone, you can either put your hand up, or you can unmute yourself. If you move your cursor over your picture, you'll see an option to unmute. So if anyone would like to comment, share it, or has Mark put his hand up? Hang on, I will go. Mark, ask a question.
Oh, okay. Where's Bex? I can only see you.
Oh,
Bex,
you change your view.
Is she not in view?
No, change the view. In the right-hand top of your screen, there's an option to change to gallery view.
If you change to gallery view, you'll see everybody.
Got it. Hello, Bex.
Hi, Mark.
I'm just really interested, because it's just in some of the history bit, because some of it resonated with me, being brought up in a strict religion. I don't know if we've ever had this conversation before, but I'm just, can you say which one it was?
Yeah, sure. It's the Christadelphian community. It's a very small branch of Christians. They're quite that not many people have ever heard of.
Yeah, nobody's ever heard of.
I've heard of them. Because I was brought up Jehovah's Witness, and I had a similar kind of experience when I was young. Yeah. Yeah,
probably quite similar communities, I'd guess.
Yeah, they I think it's. I mean, there's different things, but it's.
Yeah, and it's
Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Sophie. Yeah. Oh, Sophie.
Yeah, Sophie just
saying hello.
Sophie, ask a question.
She's probably the wisest one on this webinar. Just saying.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Okay, that was all. I was just curious, and yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay,
thank you, Bex and Debra. We love you.
Yeah, we love you too, Mark. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And Sophie and Emma. Hi, love you guys.
Oh dear.
So has anyone else, I will mute you again, that's it. So has anyone else got a question? Anyone else want to comment? Anyone else want to ask anything about about anything that Bec's talked about, really. Principles, what we're up to.
Oh, Cliff's got his hand up.
Yeah, I think you're unmuted, Cliff.
Yes, I'm just trying to unmute. Have I unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, there were a couple of things I just remembered. One was in using the analogy of the projector, there was the electrical current, the light, and the film itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then a fourth element was introduced, the screen, which seemed to be more fundamental than the others. So,
yeah, I just threw that one out there.
Is it 4 principles then?
No, I think the 3 principles are the bit that kind of explains what's going on. But the 4th principle is that metaphor, which isn't really part of the principles, but it's the fact that all this plays out on the screen, and that we are not affected by anything that happens to us. Whatever happens in our lives, whatever thoughts we have, whatever experiences we have, we are still the creative essence of the entire universe. And I think the 3 principles together is what that's pointing to. If that makes sense. Did that make sense?
So there's the screen though. What is the screen?
So I would say that's us in our kind of purest form.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the 3 principles are
how we experience us in our human form.
So the 3 principles are the mode that life takes to manifest, and the screen is that upon which these things play out. Yeah.
So for me, that would be Bec Sheffield. For Deb, that's Debra Simmons. For you, that's Cliff. That kind of thing. I mean, it's all the difficulty with metaphors is there's a point where they break down because they're words and they're pictures that are pointing to something. So yes, that's kind of what I'm saying, but try not to get too hung up on the metaphor and the words. But
the metaphor is one that I'm familiar with perhaps different elements involved. Yes, yeah. And the other thing was, and I think I understand what the answer will be, but you said that everything will be all right. And do you mean that whatever happens, because obviously, to take an extreme example, a lot of people died in concentration camps, 60, 70 years ago or so? Yeah. And that is happening now in all parts of the world, and it will continue to happen while human beings are human beings. Yeah. And so those sorts of things can happen and will happen, but you're saying even that is okay.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about things that happen physically, as in obviously that's a horrible situation for somebody, and I'm not sort of detracting from that. But what I'm talking about is the essence of who we are is always okay. So the metaphor I'll use here is, I'll steal the plasticine one. So if you had a ball of plasticine, it's a great one, and you kind of made out of that, people, cars, trees, or all that kind of stuff, and you built a little village, for example. All of that stuff is still plasticine, even if it's a human shape, or it's a car shape, or it's a tree shape. They're still plasticine. They're never not going to be plasticine. And even if you squish that person and put them right back into that ball of plasticine, you will never take away their plasticine. That is the essence of what that is. And that's kind of what I'm saying here, is that even when those kinds of things happen to people, some of the most horrendous things that could physically happen to someone, the essence of what they are, the pureness of who they are underneath those things is still there, because nothing that happens to us, or anything that doesn't happen to us, if we're expecting to be millionaires, for example, and that doesn't happen, we are still okay, and we are still that plasticine. So that's more what I'm talking about, if that makes sense.
You know that firsthand and don't just believe it.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's knowing something firsthand, I guess, is having been through the experiences I've been through, which I wouldn't compare obviously to things like prisoner of war camps, but nonetheless for me they were difficult situations. Having been through those, I can say that I was always okay, and I can see that okayness looking back. But equally, when you know something on a fundamental level, you keep trusting it and keep looking to see where it's true. And I think doing something like we're about to do, kind of throwing ourselves out into, what may or may not happen in North Devon over the next few months, that's kind of looking to see if the system still works. Is it still okay if I do this? And that's kind of all part and parcel of what we're doing here, I think, is almost playing the game. You know, like if you play a game of Monopoly, you don't go, oh, I've landed on Mayfair, but I might not have money in 20 minutes, so I better not buy it. You buy it because you're on Mayfair, you know, and then the next go around you buy Park Lane and you put a house on it and you put a hotel on it, because you know that at the end of that game, you're still Cliff and nothing's changed. And that's kind of, I think, what we're doing here and what we're talking about here, is that nothing is going to change for us whether we do this or don't do this. So why not just go out and try it and do it? And I think that's kind of what I'm pointing to.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. Thank you. Some good questions. Thank you. Is there anything else, or shall I mute you again?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So, has anyone else got anything that they want to put to Bec, or anything anyone would like to share, or any comments, or anything anyone would like to add? Do I worry now that my internet's gone, or has everyone just gone quiet? Oh, here we go. Oh, Erica. Hang on, Erica, and I will unmute you. Hi, Erica.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Yes.
Hey, that's good. My phone's been working or hasn't. Hello, everyone. I've obviously come in late into the can't speak today recording, so bear with me. But the bit I caught when Becky was talking was truth, something about truth. And my weird question, if it is weird, is how do we know what's truth? Because sometimes there are, I suppose, it's like factual. If the sun's always shining, but whether you feel it on the skin or not, because depending if the clouds are covering it, it doesn't stop it being a truth that it exists, for example. And sometimes there can be maybe events in your life that, whether they're good or bad, is a truth. And sometimes when I hear about the three principles, because I'm still very young to this or naive to this, I feel conflicted by what I'm hearing in the sense of reality and truth and that, and how we may or may not perceive that, if I've got the right word, in that sense. So because sometimes when I hear about our thoughts are only thoughts in a sense, obviously logically I sort of get that, even though logically it's still sort of sinking in. Spiritually, maybe I haven't connected that. But when we talk about truth with this, I'm a little, sometimes feel very resistant and almost angry here at going, but there are certain things maybe going on in my life and in others that's a complete and utter truth and makes life rather terribly interesting in all the wrong ways. So, and it's really difficult to separate not thought from what am I trying to ask about separating thought from truth? I don't know. It's sometimes how to deal with truths when thought is part of that or not. And I suppose it's just a comment really I'm bringing up, or maybe a comment / question, I'm not really sure, but that was my kind of feedback really. And I don't, maybe I'm not the only one, maybe I'm talking gobble, I don't know, but I am, yeah, I'm still left a bit like not confused, conflicted. So welcome any insights really, if that makes any sense at all.
Thank you, Erica.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. So I guess to sort of answer what was a half question, half comment, truth for me, when I'm talking about truth, I'm pointing to something that is consistent. So we talk about the three principles. I think another word for them is the three constants. So something that is constant has to be truth. So for example, gravity would be a physical constant. There's never a time, as far as I've ever experienced, where I let go of an apple and it doesn't drop to the floor. So that's a constant for me. So that's a truth. And the principles that we talk about here are truths because every time I've put them sort of to the test, if you like, they've come out to be true. So the bit I think you were talking about with thoughts and where the truths kind of come in there. I think for me, the reason thoughts themselves do not appear to be truth is that they do not remain constant. So I'll give you a very beautiful example, and apologise in advance, Andrew, if you ever listen to this recording afterwards. But for example, my boyfriend Andrew, there are times when he drives me insane and he's the most annoying person in the world. And that's the thought, and that's not truth, because the next day he is the most wonderful, amazing, perfect guy you could ever meet. So again, they aren't truths as in truth, like gravity, because they change and they're not constant. Does that make some sense? So I think that's what I'm...
Yeah, it does, but I suppose I'm thinking of other life stuff where that doesn't quite relate in some ways, for one reason or another. So I understand that example, but I don't relate to it in some ways, because I can see there's a transient, there's that, but there are some maybe life circumstances that are a truth that you can't change for one reason or another, or not possible, and that it may be very sad ones or difficult ones, and it's trying to get yourself, it's not separate, but how to manage both the truth and thought with it.
Yeah, so I think circumstances is a slightly different one to thought, because circumstances, they are what they are. So for example, at the moment we're moving house. That is a circumstance that is happening. You kind of, if you see the boxes in the house and the lack of furniture, that's something that can't be denied. But the thoughts about that aren't truth. So for example, Lucy might be having thoughts that it's the most wonderful thing ever to pack up our house and move out. And I might be having thoughts like, oh, I don't want to give up our beautiful garden and my bedroom's perfect. And neither of those are thoughts. The circumstance is what it is. That is, non-negotiable. The house is, we are moving out because you can, that is what's going on right now. But the thoughts about that circumstance are the bits that are kind of non-truth, if you like, because they're constantly changing. I don't know if that kind of answers a little bit more. I don't know if Deb's got anything to add on any of that, but
I suppose it does answer a lot of things, but I'm not going to reveal something personal online at the moment. I'd have to probably ask you guys in person and kind of give the example, and then you kind of go, oh, I see why.
Yeah,
yeah. So I completely see what you're saying, which is really helpful and useful. It does relate in a lot of life things. There's just, I suppose, I'm thinking of a few examples it really doesn't, and that's the bit where it creates a bit of resistance or conflict, in that sense of trying to not wrap your head around it all. That's not quite the thing you do with this, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you stopped mid-sentence there.
But it just call through. It's like, not now. So so that's me. Over. You can meet me now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. So I just kind of wanted to add, I think our own stuff is interesting, like when we're playing with the knowing we're always okay. And I think ever since I came across the principles, my thing has been around playing with life and playing what I can do and what I can't. It's just, it looks, it's good to play with. And one thing that to kind of add to what you were saying is our own stuff always looks like it's outside of the principles. Our own stuff always looks like it's not thought, when it's, and circumstances are definitely circumstances, like if I don't know, if I lost an arm in an accident, I would have lost my arm in an accident. That is what it is. But whether I am okay, whether I look on that as a good thing or a bad thing, whether I can carry on my life and be okay with that or not, is 100% down to my thinking in the moment. And you might kind of, the reason that I use that example is because there's actually a man that I know quite well who lives in my village who that actually happened to. The village I've actually just moved out of, but that actually happened to him. He lost his hand in an accident, and when he went to the doctor, when he was rushed into hospital and everything, when they were kind of talking to him, he seemed okay about it, and they said, oh, at some point this is going to hit you and you're going to be devastated. And I mean, this must have happened 25 years ago maybe, and he's still waiting for that devastation to hit him. He's perfectly fine with it, and he has been fine with that the whole time. And he is an amazing example of what we're pointing towards, because you would say, if you said something like, you lost your arm in an accident, everyone would say that's a bad thing. Across the board, you would kind of just agree losing your hand in an accident is awful. There's nobody that is going to be all right for. And I mean, I'm not saying, that he didn't ever have any kind of bad thinking around it, but he never reacted at the hospital or at any point. His wife is a good friend of mine, so we've talked about this, and he's never had this reaction that everyone was expecting him to have. And that points really neatly towards what it is we're pointing to, that circumstances are not inherently bad, it's what we think about them. And that kind of thing, you would kind of think across the board everybody would just think that's bad. So and our own stuff, when we're lost in our thinking about our own stuff, it looks as if it is real before thought ever got anywhere near it. And yet, like this man, it's kind of like his thinking never went there. So I don't know whether that helps at all, but I just thought that would be an interesting thing to share.
Good example.
So have you got anything else to share around, what Erica said, Bec?
No, I think that was it. I was just going to sort of say, keep in the conversation, because that definitely made the difference for all of us. And there's always going to be stuff where we think, I can't quite see it there. And then when it's meant to happen, there'll be an insight around and something will change. But yeah, keep looking for your okayness, because I promise you it's there.
Cool, thank you. So we just had a message from Lucy's iPhone. I'm guessing this is our friend Lucy Gore. I hope so. Hi, Lucy. I think you will all bring some unique and very wonderful strengths to your business. Very exciting, and can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Thanks, Lucy.
Yeah, I think that's very true as well. I think we're four very different people that bring very different things to this, and we're all the principles in action in the different ways that we do what we do. So yeah, I think it's I'm very, very excited to watch and see how it all unfolds too.
Yes, it could prove extremely interesting, couldn't it?
It could.
Writing a blog about it.
I mean, from tonight, one of the reasons why it would be a good idea to stay in this conversation and join some of these, watch the webinars or join them, because you will be seeing over the weeks what actually, you'll kind of hear as the move is about to happen. So it will be, you will watch as we move forward and see. This is us kind of walking our talk, really, isn't it? It's kind of, right, we've seen this, I'm always kind of saying to people to get out there and do what you love, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think that's where our sort of business name came from, really, wasn't it? The Dare to Be You is about getting out there and being us. And I think that's what we're aiming to do.
Yep. Let's see what happens. So has anyone else got any questions or any comments about anything that's been said? Anything anyone wants to add or share about anything tonight, or anything? Erica said she's very pleased to hear that the 3 Ps are going to be offered in the Southwest. So I'm assuming you're down. Is Erica in Bristol? Are you in Bristol, Erica?
I think that was the area she said she was in last time.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. Yeah, we're close enough to pop down. You'll have to come and visit. You'll have to come to one of our weekend things that we do or something, Erica. It'd be great to meet you in person. So what have I done? Lucy's face is looking good.
Seriously, Deb, we've met Erica. She came to us 3 P today.
Did she?
Yes.
No, different Erica.
Okay, I'll shut.
Different Erica, Lou, but never mind.
There's more than one Erica in the world.
It would be lovely to meet you, Erica. You'll have to come down to one of our 3P.
Yes, that one.
Yes, she's located in Bristol with a few practical to work out. That's hopefully looking forward to it. Yeah, cool. Really
confusing
great.
when you have two people with the same name, isn't it? Lucy and Lucy. Julie and Julie.
Yeah.
The other Julie's not here tonight. But...
This is why you need nicknames.
So, Bec, have you got anything that you would like to add to kind of wrap up our conversation? I've really enjoyed this. It's been really good fun.
No, I don't think so. Just everybody come and join in North Devon so that we can eat, please. That's
Cool. So on that note, for inviting people to join in North Devon, so next week we have another Bec as our lovely person next week. We have got Bec Freeman come in to speak, and I don't know Bec Freeman as well as I know this Bec. She's not my niece. She's another Bec. She's a different Bec. Oh, someone's cooking tea. So yeah, it would be really, really great to see any of you that can make it on the webinar next week. We have these lovely people webinars every Wednesday from 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock. It is our plan to continue them. And we just have a chat like this. It would be really, really great to have you join us whenever you're free. And then on a Thursday night, if anyone does live close enough, we have a meeting in the Roundswell Community Centre, which is next to Sainsbury's in Barnstable. So if anyone is close enough and would like to join us there, we would absolutely love to see you. And then on the last Friday of every month, we have a 3 Principles Day. The next one will be at our brand new house.
In the last Saturday.
What did I say?
Yeah.
Last Friday.
Oh, did I?
Last Saturday of every month.
The last Saturday. I was just testing. To see if anyone noticed that
I was awake.
Yeah, see if Lucy was awake. Sorry, the last Saturday of every month we have a 3 Principles Day.
I got it.
And so if anyone would like to join in that, I will be posting the details very shortly. I can't remember the address that I live on, but it's near
where we live.
Seckington Farmhouse, but I don't know I will post the full address if anyone wants to come. So those days cost £20, and that includes your lunch. We start, are we starting at 11 still? Yeah, we're starting at 11 and finishing at 5. And that includes coffee, tea, lunch, lots of talking, lots of fun. We have a good day. Yeah.
And I think we might have something new to add to the mix now.
Oh yeah, when have you got a date? Sorry?
What's the first date in June, Juju?
It's going to be the first Tuesday in June. We're going to start a meet-up group in Torrington, where I live, near to where I live. At the Torridgevale Social Club. 6 till 8 probably, or 6:30 till 8:30, sort of around that time. I haven't actually fixed a definite time, but it will sort of be that sort of time. Same sort of time as we meet in Barnstable.
Well, if anyone has got any questions about that, if you go onto our page,
we'll put some more information on.
.co.uk, the information will be there, and you can always contact. You can always put a message on Facebook to me or any of us, and we'll give you any information about any of the other things we're doing. And our retreat, we've got our next retreat coming up, which is in June the 11th to the 15th. It's a Monday to Friday, and that is at Country Ways, which is near Barnstable in North Devon. Is there anything I have forgotten to say?
Conference?
Yeah, we are going to bring the Principles Conference to North Devon in September. The tickets are on sale for that.
On your website?
Yeah, via the website, debrasimmons.co.uk. You can find anything there. The website is just about to be everything is kind of just about to start again. We were kind of putting a lot of stuff on hold because we were moving, so the move's almost done. So there will be a lot of loads of exciting things coming. And this month we're not doing our membership for this month, so that we've got a chance to get straight and all move. But then the membership will be relaunched in June, and so we'll be telling you lots about that when that all happens. So it just reminds me to, sorry, go on.
I just said good.
Oh, it just reminds me to say thanks. A massive thank you to Bec. That was really nice. I really enjoyed our conversation.
It was brilliant, Bec. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, wonderful.
Really good, mate.
Gavin's had to go. So if anyone has got any questions or anything they want to add before we wrap up tonight, please make it known.
Go on, Bec. We love you.
Hi, Mark.
What he said.
Yeah, what
See
he
you
said.
at the end of May, Mark.
End of May, 26th.
Yeah.
Coming, Mark.
We got it all booked. We come in.
Perfect. Brilliant.
Wonderful.
That's
Brilliant.
great.
That's if I actually have free will to come.
That's the topic for next week.
What is the London 3P conference like? It's brilliant, Erica. It's absolutely fabulous. The chicken conference in London. We've been to that. Yeah, I've been to that a few times. It's great. It's absolutely wonderful. You will absolutely love it.
Really good way to immerse yourself in principles.
Yes.
Great speakers.
Absolutely
Almost
fabulous.
as good as me.
Yeah, it's almost as good as our one in North Devon's going to be in September.
Right, almost.
Yeah, accommodation challenges. Well, I don't
know anyone that's in London. There might be stuff on the Tickon website about comment. I'm not sure. Yeah, come to Devon instead.
Yeah. The Three Principles Conference in London is very it's very much more conferencey. There is a lot of things going on. It's very busy. It's very go. Definitely the one we're going to do in Devon is going to be a slower paced, more relaxed.
Go to the beach is more like that.
We're going to have a lot of fun as well as some talk, so it will be slightly different.
So basically, don't go there, come to us. Yeah.
Or do both.
Go to both. I would say
go to both. It's brilliant. I love the May conference.
It is. It's a great conference to go to. The one in May in London. Yeah, brilliant conference. Okay then, guys. Well, I shall stop the recording.